Did you ever feel like you walk around and there's someone behind you, but there's no one there at all? I felt like that my whole life.
Am I correct in thinking it's your father that has this belief that we live in a supernatural world that existed with the physical world?
We would have these rituals and these festivals, the Hungry Ghost Festival, and anytime it's an anniversary of an ancestor, we would go to their grave sites and burn paper offerings, which pretty much blank notes comes from.
Define depth for us.
Dissecting your own humanity, everything that you'd been through, pain, heartbreak, and everything, and trying to find a way to use that all to create something. What makes anyone's work unique, and especially mine, is...
Welcome to the Mood Podcast, uncovering the art of conversation through the lens of photography and creativity, one frame at a time. I'm your host, Matt Jacob, and thanks for joining me again. My guest today is Marshall To, a multidisciplinary artist and chef whose debut monograph, Blank Notes, published by Charcoal Press, explores the veil between the natural and the supernatural. Raised in a Taoist family in rural Canada, Marshall grew up between two worlds, the Western landscape outside his door and the Eastern cosmology inside his home. In my chat with him, we really talk about many things, one of which being the Hungry Ghost Festival and the Taoist rituals that inspired the book, but also the way food became his first language of expression and how photography evolved into a spiritual offering to both the living and the dead. We discuss identity, belief, cultural duality, and what it means to make art that serves as both remembrance and release. This is Blank Notes, and this is Marshall To on ghosts, ancestry, and the quiet act of feeding the unseen. Enjoy. Marshall To, welcome to the Mood Podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, we haven't met before, but we have been connected through mainly through the release of your latest book, and which we're going to talk about. But to set the stage, just kind of speak to us about, I guess, your roots and evolution of your practice for those that don't know you and those meeting you for the first time.
So I grew up in a place called Red Deer, Alberta, which is a halfway town from Calgary to Edmonton. And we're probably one of the very few Chinese families in the city. And my grandparents opened up a restaurant, which my dad ended up taking over. And it slowly just became, my whole life, and like our identity in a place where, we were outsiders. But it was kind of like everyone came there to experience our culture, and it was, I guess, our way of showing them. Yeah, and I had a hard time. I was I grew up as a Chinese person in Red Deer, Alberta, playing hockey and liking a lot of the simple Canadian stuff, but didn't really fit into one or the other. And so I think that kind of started it all for me. Just like this, when you never really find your identity, or you have like 5 or 10 or whatever, and then you continuously find it, and you're just perpetually lost at the same time.
Chinese heritage, ancestry, and you were remind us, you were born in Canada, or you were born in China and then moved over?
I was born in Canada. I was born in Red Deer.
Okay.
Which is like a town of 32,000, I think now. Yeah,
and with Chinese parents.
Yeah, Chinese parents. My mom came from Guangdong, and then my dad came from Hong Kong. My mom grew up in the Cultural Revolution, and was sponsored to come over to Canada at a very young age. And my parents met, like, I think 13 and 14 or 15 and 16. And I think they met in Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay. So why Why Canada, and what was the process or progress, I should say, in terms of finding that identity where photography came in? When did you pick up your camera, and did it really help you kind of like fit in a little bit more, or like at least feel a bit more of identity or purpose?
Yeah, I, f- I didn't pick up camera until probably 27. Um, I was, I f- like, I used to draw. I started off by drawing a lot of different things. My brother's a comic book writer, so when we were kids, we would continuously draw, and he went up to obviously becoming a comic book artist, and I kind of, if I didn't have his kind of example of like how you could do it and that it was possible, I don't think that I don't think I would have even tried to do it. But I kind of like was out of options when I got to about 27. I couldn't think of what else I wanted to do, but I was always decent at certain things, so I just tried to. I started taking photos of food, and that kind of what started the journey. Um, but it was like it was fun. It was fun, making elaborate dinners and photographing them and making everything look pretty. But at a certain point, it just became very hollow, or just didn't have like the depth that I was searching for. And then so I just started photographing animals because I remember when I was a kid, I would just watch National Geographic videos for hours to the point where my brother and my sister hid them all from me. Um, and I was so obsessed that uh, they I still can't find it to this day, that specific National Geographic video that they took. But that's pretty much what inspired me down the path of just finding more depth within like the medium. And then I think that completely opened me up to um like being, or at least the beginnings of being an artist.
Okay, sorry to cut away and interrupt, but I did want to mention the current sponsor of the show. And it's not often we have sponsors on the Move podcast, but I really did want to connect with this project and feature them as much as possible where I could. They are Strata Editions, which is an experimental photography project and store in Livingston, Montana, in the US, whom I had the luxury to visit when I was passing through a while back on a photography project, and I was blown away. They are primarily a photobook store and exhibition gallery space, presenting collections of photo books, photographic art, and furniture, all designed in-house. By focusing on visual and material work through a thematic lens, they offer a space to consider the relationships between photography, self, environment, and production. The works they share tell stories about themselves as well as how they tell the stories that matter to them. Physically, Strata Editions serves as a reading room, workshop, and exhibition space for anyone who passes through its doors. Online, their e-commerce game in the photo book world is legit, and some of the books in their collections are not even readily available for purchase anywhere else. They're either sold out or out of print or imported. The titles they offer have been made available directly by the publishers or the artists themselves, and their hope is that you'll want to share these books with friends and family and add them to your own library, and I highly recommend you do. I have a few of my own favorite books from these guys. I love them. They offer artist exhibitions and shows consistently also throughout the year and continue in their own reflections on the relationship between people and environment in this region. So go check them out. They're great guys, excellent platform. Shoot them a follow. Use the discount code in the description to grab a 10% discount on your order. Do be mindful, though, they do only ship inside the US at this stage. All right, back to the episode. Why define depth for us? So why would this kind of like urge to find this kind of almost abstract thing that we call depth in photography?
I think it's like dissecting your own humanity and everything that you'd been through, pain, heartbreak, and everything, and trying to find a way to use that all to create something, to like, and photographing was kind of that was soothing for me, especially like photographing wildlife. It was it was definitely moments where you're able to really be in the moment completely and be um like my I remember I stumbled upon a wolf just in this valley, and it got way too close. I got way too close to it, and my heart just started pounding like crazy. And I was scared, but I was so thrilled. And that's not the picture that's in the book, but it's definitely one of those moments where, it soothed me, it excited me, it gave me everything that I think I ever needed and wanted.
Wow. Very, very powerful. What was this? What were you trying to soothe, do you think? Was it this kind of upbringing and loss of identity and not really kind of knowing your place in your immediate world as well as kind of the wider world in general?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of us artists feel the world and see the world a different way, and a lot of that is, there's a lot of pain with that. There's a lot of that sense of loss and sense of just trying to find who you are, which is um so it's yeah, I don't really know. It's so reactive. It's I think like Jesse, the founder of charcoal, he always talks about it as an addiction. And I don't go as far as calling it an addiction, but it's definitely something that is it's impulsive, incredibly impulsive. Um and it's beautifully impulsive.
Yeah, so it's I empathize with that a lot. It's this something from deep within that we call it impulsive or innate, that comes out through camera. We kind of try and make sense of it afterwards, right, in a retrospective way, which is why photo books are so wonderful, and sequencing and editing and kind of that almost posthumous look at what we've lost or what we're trying to find in terms of the images that we're making. So that kind of brings me on to the book, right? We really want to kind of go deep into what you've just put out there in the world, which is a wonderful piece of work. I mean, I don't have a physical copy, but the physical copy looks, from what I can tell, looks pretty epic in terms of the design and the structure. We'll talk about that. I've been privileged to have an online copy and obviously seen a lot of that. Tell us about it. Let's just start kind of with the title, Blank Notes, and tell us about kind of the subject matter, how it came about, the process, and just kind of your philosophies around what you're putting out there with this book.
Um yeah, yeah, it was I think Jesse and I had met about 7 years ago um at Chico Review, and my work was um it lacked depth at that point. It was mainly food, a few portraits, and things like that. And it was encouraged for me to find more depth. uh, I it was hard. It was hard going there the first time. I'd never had any sort of criticism, so that was the beginning of that journey of just changing my medium. I was using digital at that time, and not to say that digital is good or bad, but in order to find a different feel, I definitely went towards film. And so that started the journey of just like creating a different narrative that was beyond, the reality that you see it in your immediate environment. Like Daido Moriyama, Daisuke Yokoda, like people like especially Japanese photographers, Masahisa Fukase, were these inspirations early on in that work that kind of gave me the idea that I could make work that was not so literal, uh, and that I could make um, I can make work, long format work, and make it into kind of a movie. And you look through it like scenes in a slow black and white movie, and with so many mentors in my life like Jesse Lenz and Igor Posner, who kind of really opened my mind to movies and different books because I was very naive at that moment. I was just doing it impulsively. I wasn't really thinking about anything. But with a lot of mentorship, they kind of just opened me up, and I was able to find that what makes anyone's work unique, and especially mine, is everything that I bring to it. My story, things that have happened in my life, whether they're good or bad, and bringing it to the surface and creating from that feeling as opposed to creating it literally was very beneficial for me. Like the emotions kind of just bled into that creativity, and then allowed for it to continuously flow. Um and then I got too into Japanese horror films, and then all that inspiration just kept going and going, and things were happening in my life that were good and bad. There was a lot of, struggle at that moment of family health and things like that. And yeah, I definitely used a lot of that to um, like help me deal with it. You bring it to the surface and you take some photos, and there's like my dad's writings just in the beginning of the book. There's he would write these um, Buddhist prayers continuously over and over again. And we decided to put it at the front and the back of the book. And when you open it up, you can feel it. It's very it's a physical thing as well as it's a visual thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I can't wait to actually touch it. But tell us a little bit about. I imagine kind of those life struggles that you had with family health. You can share with us that if you want to. If not, I totally understand. But it seems like that was a real kind of spark for the, I guess, the theme of this book, or certainly the thematic focus and the relationship with life and death and afterlife, before life. Is that true in essence?
Yeah, I mean, uh, growing up, especially with all these rituals, it weirdly influenced me, and also, it, yeah, I had, it's something that I'm not, I'm not even sure if it's necessarily real or not, but um, it, the life and death part and the in between has always felt pretty close, to me, and whether I wanted to or not, I when I was growing up, I would have got outdoors slammed shut, open in my room, and there'd be nothing there. So it's always kind of been around, lurking, um, and like during this um kind of episode of like family health, I'd been feeling very desperate, and when you're desperate, you kind of pray to the heavens and things like that. And things that I'd kind of forgotten about as a child, or chose not to really bring with me to adulthood, kind of came back. Not in the way that it did when I was a child, but as an adult, I would get visits in my dreams from people that have passed on, or things like that. So it, I don't know if art was imitating life or life was imitating art, but it was definitely something that's always been very like. Did you ever feel like you walk around at night and there's someone behind you, but there's no one there at all?
Hmm.
I feel like I felt like that my whole life.
That's a really good analogy, actually, to kind of describe the book, and that's kind of how it made me feel looking through this. And there's, for people, just some context for people listening and watching you who obviously may not have the book yet, but Jesse Lenz, as in kind of Charcoal Press. You mentioned Jesse. He's founder of Charcoal Press, which published the book. And the book is centered around Taoism, right? So, am I correct in thinking it was your father that has this, or has this belief that we live in a supernatural world that existed with the physical world?
Yeah, it's definitely both my parents, and apparently the story is that they started believing in a lot of this stuff because of me. I was very sick as a child,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and I was very very sensitive. Um, I don't know if I don't know if like I don't want it to become like a ghost podcast and tell more stories, but
Yeah, come on, give us a go. It's
um,
Halloween. We're
you know
5
what?
days away
That's
from
that's
Halloween,
true.
so
That's
yeah.
true. Um, but yeah, I was an extremely sensitive kid, and we would have these rituals and these festivals, the Hungry Ghost Festival, and anytime it's an anniversary of an ancestor, we would go to their grave sites and offer food and leave food, burn paper offerings, which pretty much blank notes. That's kind of where it comes from. Is like the burning of joss paper, to the afterlife for the deceased to spend money in the afterlife. Um, so whenever I was a child, uh, after that, I'd be coming home and I would start getting a fever. Um, and it's happened probably 3 or 4 times in my life, where immediately after being in the cemetery, I would get a really, really high fever, and I would feel like I would be being twisted inside out. And I remember my parents one time when I was at my oldest, which probably was about 12 at the time. Um, I remember just burning. I was seeing red, and they put me in front of the altar, in the middle of the night. I was screaming my head off, and I could just hear them praying and praying and praying. And then I heard a crack in the ceiling, and then it just went silent. And then the fever broke, and I kind of washed my hands of everything. I was like, I don't want any part of this. This is way too scary. Um, so my parents started. They only told me this recently, that they only started believing in all this stuff because of me, because I scared them to death.
Don't know if that's funny or not. Bless them.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm 39 now, and they just told me this. So it's been, yeah, it's now I practice those rituals a little bit more because they need more to be a little bit as an adult, especially having people in your life passing away and feeling and falling ill. So I'm not as protected from the ignorance of being young anymore. I feel everything, and now I like need more help, whether that's from above or on the ground. Whether it's real or not, I don't know, but I'm like, please help me. Right? Anyone.
And
Eh,
so this is a belief system that's kind of infused in you now.
yeah, more or less. I'm not like, I don't practice a ton, but I don't really believe in practice. I just, it's like I have 1 foot out, 1 foot out, 1 foot in. Um, and it's something that, I will still celebrate with my parents, and I will still burn incense, on specific days. And my parents do every morning, and they will ask for protection over us. And I do it in my own way. I do it when I'm working. I do it when I'm driving, and I have my own thoughts to myself. You know, um, because if there's something there, they're not gonna care if I burn incense or not. You know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, why have you seen, other than kind of like these events that you said you've had 3 or 4 times, has there been anything else that has been a little bit more visceral in terms of like the visual feel. Have you ever seen like any ghosts or any other kind of examples or stories that are really kind of prevalent in the real world?
I can tell you two stories. Um, one I don't remember. Uh, one.
We can't
Uh,
tell us two. You can't tell us two then. You can only tell us one.
okay, okay. Well, the first one is my brother, that he thought it was him that happened to, but it was actually me, and it's something that we only just found out as well.
Okay, got it.
Um, but this was okay. So this was probably about 4 years ago. This was just after COVID, and everything was going back to normal life. And I'm a big tennis player. I love tennis. So I went to go play tennis with a friend of mine, and the one of the big tennis courts near here is a place called Queen Elizabeth Park, and it's quite. It's not heavily wooded, but there's trees. People sleep there. Um, but one morning, I noticed that someone was sleeping underneath a tree, and I, didn't think much of it. I just thought it was a normal person. Yeah, I mean, you just see it kind of all over Vancouver. Um, so I didn't really think twice. But when I came back down, I noticed that he was still in the same like position. And when I got closer, his hands were kind of up in the air a little bit, uh, kind of like just off to a side like this. Um, and I got closer, and it turns out that the gentleman had passed. Um, and Yeah, it was something I definitely had never seen before in public. Definitely seen, my grandparents. Um, but it's interesting the thoughts that go through your head when you see something like that. And so I definitely was thinking to myself about, I wonder if this person had people that cared for him. Yeah, I called the authorities and everything. Um, Happened, accordingly, and I didn't go back. I didn't go back to the tennis courts for a while. But about 6 weeks later, I go back, and I parked my car. I tried to not park so close to where I found the gentleman. Um, and I parked my car so maybe just like, I don't know, a block away. And I get out of my car and I see a Ziploc bag of pictures. Um, and it says I love you,
What, on the
Max,
floor?
on the ground, on the grass.
Okay.
A Ziploc bag of pictures that says I love you, Max. And I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that it's this gentleman as a young person. And I opened it up and I looked at the pictures. I was curious. Um, you know, everything was pretty accurate. I resembled that person. But that night, I had a dream that a decomposing corpse was trying to grab me. And then when I woke up, I was on my knees on my bed, like with my head in my knees, and I felt like I'd been awake for like hours. Um, and yeah, that's one of the things that started happening, was things started coming into my dreams.
That's yeah, that's kind of eerie. Right? Lots of it's difficult, isn't it? It's like I haven't had experiences like that before, but I've heard many people with kind of these abnormal experiences without actually like having kind of that scientific evidence in front of you, and it's just like there's something to be said for these types of experiences, or at least what's going on in the body and the spirit and the mind. Whether that's something to do with the afterlife or not, I don't know, but there's something, isn't it? There's definitely like an energy around these experiences.
Yeah, my mom has these dreams where when people pass away in her life, she has dreams and they come visit her, and I never believed my mom. I was like, was like, yeah, that's all you. Um, but now now I ask her, what a lot of this means, have like having people visit you in your dreams while you're traveling. Like I had a dream about a friend that passed away, and we were on a plane, and he was telling me what it felt like to travel. And so I asked my mom what that meant, and for her, she believes that it means that they're moving on.
Yeah, and this is evident in the book, right? If we bring it back to the book, the way you depict this thinning veil between natural and supernatural, and um, this kind of opaque line between the two, and the crossing over, and there's just a kind of wonderful ambiguity to it, and this wonderful atmosphere to these images. And when you're creating these images, did you have this theme in mind, and did you have this, obviously it allowed you to kind of dive a little bit deeper into this topic and your family and your family's belief system as well as your own. But was this kind of I mean, we talked about being reactive and kind of being instinctive, but was this an idea that you had and then you went and shot, or how did it kind of formulate?
I don't like I don't think I ever wanted to be broken. Like like I didn't really want. I wanted it to be like easy and pretty, at the beginning stages of the idea of being an artist. I didn't necessarily want to be like I didn't really want it to be so raw, but I didn't understand, or I didn't see people's work. Like, yeah, I wasn't shown work that could, uh, like Raymond Meeks. Um, his work is so like raw, uh, and I never seen any work like that before, and I just wanted to figure out how to do that. Um, and so that meant like breaking my mold. Um, and after that kind of happened, and then like talking about the influences that kind of came after, um, it really just meant like finding subject matter that I liked, and then being in that feeling, just to accept something. Like a lot of times, I'd be park walking alone at night and scared out of my mind, and trying to photograph whatever. With a headlamp and a flash, with noises going everywhere. So I just wanted to like I I just tried to keep that feeling, whatever that was, and just go out every night. Um, and try to capture that feeling to whatever subject matter that was. Um, so thematically, it kind of just evolved. Um, and then near the end, it definitely became more purposeful. Of like, there's a girl in the woods in the book, my friend Kanui, and she's this wonderful Japanese dancer, and I had an idea of her just dancing in the woods at night, and just taking video of it, and so just photographed it, and had that. I think that's like one of the very few shots that is like the whole scene was created. Um, it wasn't completely natural, but in lots of ways, very, very natural.
Yeah, so many like cool shots. Um, a few more, yeah, obviously a few more questions, but the you talked about the subject matter, and that's quite important because it relates to the hungry ghosts, right? So can you give us, can you explain to us, I guess, Taoism in general, but this belief, and the time of year when the gates of hell open to the hungry ghosts and what kind of form they take? Can you just give us a synopsis about that?
My parents always just told me that during these festivals not to do anything dumb outside at night. Otherwise, people would like things would just follow you home.
Really?
Um, yeah, yeah. I was actually Pharisee. I would like. be very polite, and then just, kind of, uh, speak politely to the ether. Um, um, and so, but, yeah, looking more into it, it's the, um, so during the festival, you leave food and incense, out so that your family members can find their way back home. Um, and they will have a great feast. Uh, but for those that their families or don't have families, or their families don't leave anything out there, they just tend to wander and they become kind of malevolent, right? That's the word.
Malevolent. Yeah, yeah. Malevolent.
Malevolent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
It's too early on a Sunday morning. God.
And then they kind of they're hungry. They're hungry for for love and family and food, and say they definitely attach themselves. And that's kind of how or how I felt. Um, talking about the story when I was a kid coming back from a cemetery. Um, that's how my mom explained it. That someone came with me. Because I was probably, I was a kid. I was probably just like running around on gravestones and whatever, right? Uh, that I perhaps was being disrespectful, and something came home. So, um, it was always, a fear for me, even now. Um, and the forms that they can take to to me, and especially in this book, like, they can take many forms. Like, you see the owl as being a familiar in the book, but it could be anything. Honestly, it could turn. It's like you go through a forest not knowing, like a dark forest, not knowing, who's actually trying to help you or who's leading you down a path that's actually not good.
So scary. I mean, as a child, like telling you these stories. I mean, obviously that your parents had your best interest at heart, but you must have been petrified.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps your kids in line. Do you have kids?
That was what I was going to say. There's another thing to this. It may have just been like they may have been pushing it a little bit more just to keep you keep you well behaved.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't know if it's actually real or not per se, but I know that
Just
I'm
a
super
disciplinary
polite.
tool.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So this book is just for nothing, basically. Yeah, yeah. No, well, tell me about the technical side of things, because I love this kind of how would I describe it, this almost vintage antique look to the images, obviously shot on film. Did you do any like a post processing with it to add any kind of effects? I mean, there's so many cool images. I'm looking at one now. One is this one has got two people walking down one person walking, I think the other one's on a bike walking down a winding road. One's got a reflection pond, which is a strong image in itself. But then there's this thing that looks like an artifact from film on the top of the image, which is in the shape of like the quintessential ghost shape, right? And it gives like this texture and this kind of ethereal feeling to the image. So that's just one example of many of where I think kind of the aesthetic texture of these images really kind of adds that real supernatural feeling. How did you go about doing that, and was that a conscious style decision?
Um, it's funny. I've been having this conversation a lot, and Jesse really hated, you know, dealing with all these negatives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he hated the fact that there was dust on everything. There was, like these hard negatives to scan. Um, but there's a part of, I think, just my personal being too, where I just don't think anything's too precious, and I don't, especially art. I don't love like I don't want to look at a book with white gloves. That's my personal preference, but Like everything deserves to be created and destroyed and ruined to me. Just like reality. You can't keep anything perfect. And so this kind of just my personal, not philosophy, but just like laissez-faire, But then also I like, I just didn't want anything to be pristine anymore. So I kind of pushed it to, really, some of it soaking the film in liquids and, near the
Oh, wow.
end, to really give it even more intense feeling. Um, but at the beginning it was just this, kind of mindless, like, I was just shooting, developing as much as I could. And I was just learning to develop my own film. So and I was doing it in my own bathroom. So a lot of it was, just mistakes and willing to make the mistakes. Um, and then finding that greatness in it, or, sorry, I don't want to use the word greatness, but, um, the stuff that really got me excited. And it was because of making mistakes. Because I don't think this work would work as well if it was super polished.
No, absolutely not. It, like I said, it adds an even kind of more visceral layer onto the theme, right, and onto the story and the kind of this narrative suggestion that you're depicting in the book. So I think it. I mean, it obviously works perfectly. Otherwise, you wouldn't be publishing it. But um, actually, it reminded me, like, looking through these images again as I'm talking to you, like, it was so weird that I've heard some of your kind of eerie stories, because last night I woke up at, like, I don't know, 3 a.m. or something like that, and went to the toilet because I'm getting old. And
Yeah.
and I just had this feeling, like, as soon as, like, this thing entered my mind, it's like, oh, what, I'm all alone in pitch dark, so I couldn't turn the light on because my wife's sleeping. And I'm just, you obviously, what that feeling's like. And it was just weird that I was speaking to you, and that never really happens to me. But yeah, maybe it's just your aura and your energy
I
sending
hope
from the other
not.
side of the world.
I hope not. I mean, I make fun. I tell my friends that if I ever die, I'm gonna come back as a ghost just to prove it and just like messing with you.
Well, there could be millions of ghosts trying to do that, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you would, yeah. Um, just to kind of round this little bit off, what the blank notes is, because I always thought hell notes. I lived in Hong Kong for a decade, and so I kind of have had a kind of relatively um, layman knowledge of this type of stuff. But hell notes were not blank, right? So why, or am I wrong with that? Why the blank notes? Is it kind of like an offering to the supernatural?
Yeah, like, yeah, it's the hell notes for like actual, especially like now,
Like fake money.
yeah, you can buy them with like actual, dollar values on it. Um, but I think also blank notes is like, it's kind of like, it's like when my mom, um burns incense in the morning and it says a prayer, and it's just messages going to the sky, and they're, they're just, you know uh they, they don't have any like necessary value, but it's, yeah, it's to me, it's just like smoke going into the air, and if it's not reaching, uh like, uh deities, it's just disappearing into thin air and it's getting out of you. It's like it's something that becomes blank because you're just getting it out of you and you're releasing it. Because sometimes
Love
that's
it.
that's the most important thing, is like whatever you're trying to, like, get out of your system, and it just becomes nothing.
What do you so other than so what does it represent then in terms of these blank notes? Is it something that's more personal to you? Is it like fear, grief? memory or love, or is it not even that deep? It's just a kind of observation.
I think I think for this book, it was specifically for my family and asking for their, just like to find a way for them to get past it and through it. Um, there was a multitude of things that came up, quite in succession. Uh, everyone's fine, but it was a really difficult time. My dad got ill, and it was really difficult. It was really difficult taking him, through chemo for a year, and as you get to know your parents as they get old, and they're, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough when they get sick, and they, um, your relationships change, and then you watch their relationships change with other people, uh, and then my brother-in-law got sick, close to the same time. I have a niece and my nephew that I love very much, and it's um and they're in the book. Um, yeah, it's just you feel helpless. You feel helpless just watching people fall ill and then go through it, and and then when two little ones get affected, it's and possibly have consequences down the road, and it's a tough it's a, it's tough to like take to know and then take with you. So that's kind of what a lot of it meant for me was, you know, um, yeah, just finding a way through it.
Therapeutic in a way.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I definitely use art in a therapeutic way. Say whether it's drawing or whatever.
And is this book, is it dedicated to your family in that sense then?
Yes, it's definitely it's not written in there, but it's definitely dedicated to my family because I mean I live with my parents, and I'm very close to my sister and my brother, and um I I definitely, if not for them, I truly wouldn't be in this position. Uh just allowing me to um allowing me space and grace to fail, and to try to find who I am. Because there's not a lot, or not everyone's family is like that. Um, and
It's good. I mean, the family centrality that Asian culture is well known for is sometimes so extremely powerful, and um, can also be devastating as well if you're that close. But yeah, it's good to hear you have kind of that familial line drawn under the book. So it's nice to kind of piece that together. And you talked about identity and kind of know who you are. The other part of you that many people may not know is that you're a chef, right? So
yeah,
you're kind of balancing your artistic side with a camera as well as your artistic side with food. Have you always been a chef? Is this kind of been your main career?
um, it's been my longest career. I started cooking at I started like working washing dishes probably at 26. Um, I dabbled. I tried to do retail before, and I wanted to play basketball before that. None of those things panned out. But I was always like decent at drawing, and that was kind of my entry point to being artistic. Was like, okay, this possibly could be an option. Um, but yeah, I didn't know what else to do, so I started washing dishes and trying my hand at cooking because my mom's a great cook, and I love all of her cooking. But um, I wanted like mac and cheese, and she would make really good mac and cheese with cheese whiz, but I needed something more.
with some noodles.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, yeah,
that's stereotyping, but yeah.
yeah.
Um, so do you how do you think that the chef world and making food has influenced how you make photographs, if at all? Have they intertwined in any sense that you can think of?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. I mean, it's intertwined in just the cultural um beliefs of offerings and servitude. And I think that it's a very humbling industry. Um, so that helps. Um, but for photographs, I'm not too sure. I mean, the discipline definitely lends into photographing. The dedication I would because I do work long shifts, 12 to 16-hour days. I could photograph for that long. Uh, because even if I don't get a single one, I remember driving. I would go to Yellowstone, look for wolves, and drive around for 12 hours a day and just not find anything. But still, like, have that feeling of excitement of wanting to still do it again the next day. Um, because yeah, being a chef, there's like lots of ups and downs, like, and you're kind of waiting for the heat. There's lots of ups and downs, a lot of lull, um, and sometimes it's like it's feeding into a habit because you really want that super high and super low. Um, so yeah, in that way, it definitely mimics photography that way. I mean, like, as if you're going out shooting stuff that involves like chasing things, you know, which at that moment I was.
So not a bad endeavor to go down to Yellowstone for a few times. I mean, what a beautiful place that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but I presume you did find some wolves at some point. I mean, there's some or these wolves that are in the book, or on your website, I think, as well. Are they somewhere else?
No, the wolves are in Yellowstone. He I did. I did. Had some pretty good luck, but it's just so hard getting photos. But most of the other animals are all in Canada, in like Jasper and Calgary and Vancouver.
Cool. So now you're feeding the living as well as feeding the unliving,
That's a great
whatever.
way to put it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that whole like art imitating life thing has really just come full circle in a way. Yeah.
Cool. I give you. So what's next? I mean, now the book's coming out. How tell us about kind of the publishing process and the PR and kind of the world that you live in right now as the book gets in people's hands.
Um, it's a lot of me overthinking and being nervous. Yeah, I did.
It's your first book. It's a big deal.
I know. It's like it's just so surreal because it's been in the process for so long, and that's you start by telling people, oh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and then 4 years go by, people are like, is this still happening? And
Was
I'm
it
like,
4 years?
I mean, it was like 6 to 7 in its entirety. Uh, so I remember telling people very early on, and I was like, oh no. As the years went by, I was like, I mean, I knew that was happening, but it was. But anyways, yeah, it's answering a lot of questions. Like I was doing some interview questions on my laptop the other day, and it's hard to get my brain um all together to answer everything like this. I don't want there to be any too many discrepancies between different platforms asking me similar questions. But the publishing process has been great. I mean, Jesse is very has was super hands on and has helped me out immensely. I pretty much just had to shoot the photos. Um, and we would talk about the different types of paper and the, the sizes of the book, and the black paper specifically. And, and the size we were, uh, we thought that it was imperative, um, to make it as big as it was, just to have the impact that it, hopefully it does.
And the sequencing as well. That's kind of a difficult and subjective but important part, right?
Absolutely. It's important to have a really good editor, especially when you're really close to your book, when you're working with personal, subject matter. You can't really see what someone else is seeing. Um, which he's been incredible for, like, really creating the narrative with the sequencing. Because I was never, I wasn't very good at it. I just threw photos together that I thought that worked well. But going from page to page, sometimes it takes someone that has, a different, a longer vision.
How has this process changed you, I guess, as a photographer, but also as a human? I mean, the 6 years is a long time to kind of have this in the making, but now you kind of seen firsthand how books are put together, and obviously like the important decisions that you've had to make together. How has that enlightened you, if anything, in terms of kind of photography world, but your own process as well as evolving as a person in that respect, if it went that far?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think at first you just want success, right? Like, and you want to make it in the world that you want to live in and make money in. Um, but after a certain amount of time, the reality of all these things that we were talking about, how niche of an industry this is that you have to do other things. So the dream kind of turns into reality, which reality you have to, most likely you have to have another job. And, so it was kind of nice where, I had a lot of time to settle those dreams down into a more, um, a more realistic vision. Um, and so, I got all those feelings out of the way so that I could just do the work. And, that was key for me, to not get too lost into expectations or lofty dreams, and just do it because I felt like I had to. Um, and and so now I just work. I just, not even thinking about what project necessarily suits what, but, looking at every day of, like, you see something, just keep shooting, keep creating. Don't put it in a box just yet. Just do whatever you can, and then see what it looks like after, because half the fun is just creating. And so that's a big part of what I learned, was just to let go as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because something as personal as your first book, especially, you can hold on to it way too tight. And it really blinds you from continuing on, because you got to look forward, even though you have this book coming out, or whatever it is coming out. So, and then also just trying to see what else I can do. Like, I love painting and illustrating, and I just did I did a short film, about 8 minutes long, that was very fun. It was very fun to ride the waves of creativity that comes with that freedom of letting go.
Love it. And what is the next? I guess going to Parry Photo, where I guess you'll show people the book, and what is the next kind of couple of months look like for the book release for you?
Uh, yeah, so I'll be going to Paris for polycopies in 2 weeks. And I'll be at the booth, the Travel Book Club booth, a few days for signings, and with Jesse. What are the dates? I don't remember the dates, but I arrive in Paris November 10th, and I'm there till the 17th. So, And after that, I'm not exactly sure. I think that's kind of end of the road for at least this year for me, other than a few media outlets.
And
But
then the next
also,
project.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm very keen to look forward to the next one. I love that I get to experience being an artist for a few months out of the year, which is nice. So
Do you
I'm
wish you
looking
could do
forward
it
to that.
more? I mean, is there any thought about eventually going full time artist, full time photographer?
I would like to. That I don't. I'm not. I can't. I don't really see it at the moment as being a reality. Um, but I kind of like that because it's that it's that struggle that keeps me humble, and it keeps me thirsty for, and it keeps that drive hot, and, and it keeps the fire burning even hotter. So there's part of me really just like not being able to do the work anymore, like physically. It's just very demanding. But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. But
Yeah. Yeah, don't we all? It's a difficult world to kind of move into full time. Um, but yeah, I mean, wish you the best of luck. I mean, just a few more questions before we kind of wrap up. For the tech geeks out there, just give us an idea of what you shoot on.
I shoot on an array of things. At the beginning, it was a Canon 81. Um, with I had a 600 millimeter telephoto lens, an old school Canon. It's just like a fixed lens. But those continuously broke. So it just after a certain extent, I would just buy whatever cameras, anything, anything that worked. I would just buy and then just use, and then they would break, and then uh, um, and then I would use toy cameras too. I like using toy cameras. I think they're fun. I'm annoyed of them of how they're built, and they're really hard to like rewind and things like that. But I I like I like the effects that it gives. And then now I shoot on a Canon Elan, uh, which is a battery operated Canon automatic reload, automatic zoom. So now I'm kind of just using for, it's like, especially for what I shoot, is if you're just shooting for moments, you got to be quick. So you got to either use, you got to just use something handy, right? Something that feels good in your hand, and the buttons.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I'm guessing a lot of this is 35 mil, and then you use some, I guess, your head torch and some flash as well in some images.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of head torch, a lot of flashes. Yeah, those I find those super fun. Like at first, I was saying before that I was really scared just walking out alone at night, and then after a while, it started to get, you know, I started to get a little bit carried away. I'd walk in the forest with some friends at night with headlamps on, and not know if there's a cougar that went across the train tracks and things like that. And all of a sudden, you start thinking twice again. um, right? So
Push to a limit, and then it's kind of like, and then they come back a little bit.
right,
Or
thrill
the
can kill
fear
you.
of, yeah, it's just the fear of, I guess, just fear of death, fear of trouble, fear of danger.
It's like that
And
song.
this, yeah, go on.
Oh, I always had that like fear of the dark, Iron Maiden song in my head while I'm walking
Oh
through.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this beautiful work kind of really does that feeling justice, and I think maybe I've talked about it in kind of more of a morbid sense, but it's like this meditation on mortality, right? And this, we haven't really talked about life and death. We kind of talked about the world in between, maybe, but it's this quite accepting feeling in the book that you illustrate so well. Have you? I mean, is death something that is comfortable with you? Have you learned anything about it through kind of, I guess, your parents and your belief system, as well as making this book? Has it even entered the frame?
It that has always also been a very prevalent theme in my life as well. Um, there's a couple times that I've almost died. I have a I have a deathly allergy to nuts.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I can never come to Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll be dead as soon as
Yeah.
you get off the plane.
um, so there's been a couple times where I've had the, really scary moments. Just being in the hospital, and then the one time that really scared me the most was I ate some cashews and I started, I started feeling ill, and I called the ambulance, blah blah. I'm in the ICU. They gave me epinephrine, probably about my third shot of epinephrine, and everything comes back out, and it starts irritating everything again, and I start going into shock. Um, and so they intubated me right away, and then I was, very close to passing out, and they shot me with another epinephrine, and then they drilled a hole into my shin with they drilled a tiny hole into your shin, and you could smell your skin
Oh,
burning,
oh God.
and they jabbed another epinephrine right into my shin, for and it's because it goes faster. It's straight
Yeah.
into
Straight
the
into the
bloodstream.
bloodstream.
Yeah. Um, and then I just remember closing my eyes, like all of a sudden there's six people around me, and then I'm like closing my eyes, and then I wake up 2 days later, or sorry, a day and a half later.
Did you have any weird dreams or kind of brain activity during those 2 days?
No, this is the best sleep of
No,
my
not that you
life.
can remember. Right. So death is great.
Well, it's like I'm not afraid of death necessarily. I'm definitely afraid of dying, and afraid of whatever like people closest to me feel, if I'm gone. Um, I definitely want to be around to help out, but I'm not necessarily afraid of death, because again, it's not, it's one of those things where we're all gonna do it. I don't feel unique in that way.
What a lovely, happy way to end the podcast. As we talk about death, the episode dies. Marshall, thank you so much for your humility and your grace. And I absolutely love this book. I can't, like I said to you, I get my books delivered to the UK. So when I get back there in the new year, I'm gonna get my hands on this and really enjoy it as it should be enjoyed. So I wish you the very, very best of luck. I'm really happy for you. Congratulations, and yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens from this and seeing more of you out there in the art world.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thanks for reaching out. I had a great time. I hope I didn't scare anyone too much.
Not at all.